Well, folks, it's time to suit up again for another episode here on the Soul Sessions. But with me today, someone who reaches for the sky, Skye James. Welcome to the Soul Sessions.
Well, thank you for having me on.
Oh, absolute pleasure. But Skye, you know what I like to say? Every guest has a story, and every story has a beginning. How did your story begin as a wrestling fan?
Well, I actually started by playing wrestling video games. So when I
Ooh.
was younger, my mum would buy me like the discounted ones and like CEX, and I ended up with SmackDown Shut Your Mouth. And just with the game, I played the game that much. I started watching the wrestling, and then ended up falling in love with it all.
Well, that's a hell of a story, and of course, Shut Your Mouth, a very iconic wrestling game as well. And we've seen wrestling games evolve. You know, have you got maybe a top 3 wrestling games of all time?
Well, I obviously have a soft spot for Shut Your Mouth. I really liked WWE 12, and I liked the Raw versus SmackDown games, probably around 2011 would have been my favourite one out of them.
Oh, very good choices, all indeed. And obviously, you know, with especially the WWE games, there was a transition period, you know, from 2HQ to 2K. Some fans have been very receptive of that. Some people want them to go back to the old style of 2HQ games. What about yourself, Guy? Do you think, you know, the games are at a good place right now, or do you think they've got to look at the past and evolve through that way?
I would say the THQ ones were the better ones. I actually haven't been buying them every year like I used to because I just don't feel like they're worth it anymore. Where THQ, the stories that they made within the games was really good because they were making up their own storylines and some of them were very interesting.
Now, of course, obviously the classic Road to WrestleMania and everything, they were absolutely banger additions to the games. But obviously, you know, especially with the 2K ones, there was a wee little, what should I say, blip in the road with 2K21. That was
Yeah, definitely. That one
yeah,
was not good at all.
it's a bit of a rocky patch. Maybe it's in some people's hearts as their favorites. Don't know why. It just is. But I mean, did you buy that
Each
game
to
on day
their own.
one? Each to their own, indeed. But did you buy that game day one?
No, by that time I didn't think 19 was all that great. I don't know what it was. I just didn't find the love for him like I did with the 2K game, the THQ games, because it just felt like with the THQ games, you know, they were doing these storylines in the road to WrestleMania, which was my favorite part of the game. And it was not, you know, you didn't know what was going to happen in them. It wasn't based on anything, you know, real that had actually happened. It was just totally made up, and you kind of got invested in them.
Absolutely indeed. And also, you know, with that little blimp with 2K21, they would take a year off and come back with 2K23, which people are saying is maybe the best wrestling game of all time. So many great additions, you know, with GM mode, universe mode, and, you know, even the little card mode, which I don't know why. It's not my thing. I'll leave it as it is. But I want to know with 2K23, do you think it's going to be remembered as a great revival for wrestling games?
Yeah, I haven't actually played it myself just yet, but from what I've heard from my friends and stuff, they keep telling me you need to get it, you need to get it.
Well, yeah, definitely. But sadly, video games are a bit too pricey nowadays. We've got to save up and wait until, you know, hit that discount area. But obviously, you know, we mentioned THQ, but THQ would come back into the wrestling game view with AEW Fight Forever. You know, I want to know first, have you played the game and what's your thoughts on it?
I'm actually debating getting the game. One of
Ooh.
my close friends have had it. He keeps inviting me over, saying like you should come and play it and that. He's very happy with it,
Oh,
and I'm very interested. I think I'm probably gonna get it when I have a bit more time in my hands.
well, of
See, in
course.
my shoot job at the minute, it's very, very busy at the moment. So I think when I get a bit of a quieter period, I'll probably get back to more time on the games.
No, absolutely. I mean, definitely hell of a game as well. But, you know, they're adding this addition mode, the Stadium Stampede mode, kind of like a Battle Royale Fortnite kind of mode. I mean, what's your thoughts on these like wrestling video games maybe branching out to areas that some might not expect with these Battle Royale modes?
Sometimes it's fun to kind of, you know, do the unexpected. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You have to give them kudos for trying it, whatever direction it ends up going in.
Absolutely. It's always good to innovate and try new things because you never know what's going to click with the fans. But obviously, you know, going back to yourself, Skye, and wrestling for yourself as well, you would, you know, become a wrestler as well. What was the steps you took to engage with wrestling training?
Well, I wanted to train a lot younger than I did start. I started looking at schools when I was about 13, and none of them were taking you until you were like 16.
Mm.
So as soon as I turned 16, I found Pro Wrestling Ulster. I started their training school, And there's just been a few different revamps with the scene over here because I've trained in a few different schools. I'm now training in Titanic at the moment, which has been great.
Oh, wow, it's great to see. And obviously, Northern Ireland is such a great place to learn and do wrestling as well. I've had people from there, CJ West, Renzo Rhodes, who came over from Italy to learn, and obviously Session Moff Martina, such an iconic wrestler within the Irish scene. And they talked about how Irish wrestling in general is such a great learning opportunity. So many great stuff. From yourself, Skye, learning, obviously, do you agree with that? Do you think it's maybe one of the best places to learn?
Definitely, because we do share our knowledge about the different schools. We've had some of the Fight Factory trainers come up and train with us in Titanic. Then I've actually went down the Fight Factory to learn in their school as well. Because the coaches there are absolutely fantastic. If you look at some of the talent that has came out of Ireland, you've got the likes of Finn Balor, you've got Sheamus, you've got Lyra Valkyria. All fantastic wrestlers, and even you have a few up and comers who the likes of LJ Cleary, which I definitely see being signed somewhere in the future. I'm really surprised he hasn't been signed yet because I think he's one of the best talents in this part of the world.
Of course, absolutely. He's a hell of a guy. I've seen him do some work over in, FBWA and Fife and Community Pro Wrestling in Glasgow. Dude's a hell of a talent. Where would you like to see LJ, sign with maybe WWE, AEW, Impact, or where would you like to see him?
Honestly, any of them options, whatever he gets given, the fella nails it. He's just made for wrestling. Because I remember him starting out and he just had it, from he started, just knowing what to do with his character, his in-ring ability, the way he could put a match together. He's just phenomenal. He is definitely one of the best young talents about. And I would say I've always looked up to him from I've seen him starting out.
Wow. I mean, it's a great thing to see him rise and, see how kind of maybe Northern Irish wrestling prodigy kicking ass in the world of wrestling. But obviously, many other great names as well. But I want to know from yourself, Skye, if you have to pick 4, like your Mount Rushmore of Irish wrestling, who would you pick?
Finn Balor, Becky Lynch, Katie Harvey, because she definitely built the scene up for the ladies. And I would definitely say Justy, because I feel like Justy is a fantastic wrestler. He's always very entertaining, and he seems to always be there for advice for any of the younger ones coming up. So I would definitely say those 4.
Oh, that's absolutely great talent all around. Then I want to go back.
Actually, I'm probably going to add a 5th name, and I will also say Tucker.
Oh, okay. Well, hey, we spicy 5th. No problem with that, indeed.
Because Tucker, I feel like Tucker is one of the most underestimated talents in the country. He is a phenomenal talent. Even his work whenever he was doing the NXT, I definitely think that one of the best matches I ever seen him do was that match with Tyler Bate in the first round of the tournament.
Oh, it's actual banger indeed. It just shows that so many great talent where you never know where they're going to be from, and from great places such as Ireland. But obviously, Skye, for yourself as well, I believe it's been 5 years since you started wrestling, if I'm correct.
Yeah, it's 6 years since I started training, but 5 years since I've started wrestling on shows.
And how have you feel like you've grown from wrestling on shows from the beginning now to here?
Well, I've grown quite a bit. Like when I started off, I was quite young, quite naive, just kind of having a good time. I would definitely say as I've gotten older, I've started to understand the wrestling a bit better, how to connect with the crowd a bit better, what works for a match, what doesn't work for a match. And I definitely feel a lot more confident as a performer than I did when I was a lot younger.
No, exception as well. A running theme here on this season of the Soul Session has been ring psychology. I've spoken to wrestlers who've understand it, and some who've want to learn it. I spoke from a tag team point of view, a triple threat point of view. From yourself, Skye, learning ring psychology, how much of that was an important lesson to you?
Yeah, it's very important because it's just better if your match tells a story. It's like I did media studies in school, and you learn a lot about how movies and stuff are put together and about how they put the stories together so that people will engage in the story. And I think the same thing goes for a wrestling match. If you don't put the match together properly and have it tell a story, then people aren't going to connect with it.
Definitely, I mean, it's a great point as well. The movie industry is sort of like, it's got great stories and characters, which is the same with wrestling in a way as well. If there was someone who's wanting to become a wrestler, or someone who's training right now, and they're watching this guy, and they wanted to learn one aspect of ring psychology, what advice would you give them and why?
I would say go back and watch older WWE matches like from like the 90s and that because you'd find even the 80s like the matches they do is a lot more basic in moves and stuff, but what they really nail is the psychology. So you can learn a lot from watching the likes of Hulk Hogan, the likes of Mae Young, the likes of the Fabulous Moolah, and of course Bret Hart. Like Bret Hart's one of my go-tos. I love watching a Bret Hart match.
Everyone loves a Bret Hart match. Who knows? Maybe we could see you become a member of CMFTR, the whole Bret Hart celebration gang. You never know what you can have in the future.
Very true.
But obviously, I know you suffer a wee injury in your career as well with your elbow popping out. What was it like going through that injury? Was that related to wrestling, if I'm correct?
Yeah, so it happened during training. It was my second training session back after like the first wave of the pandemic. And when things had eased up again, I was doing a simple bit of chain wrestling. I kind of lost my footing and my foot got cut and my whole body weight came down on me, my left arm. And my elbow just came right out, like I could feel it. And I was like making eye contact with my trainer, JDP, at the time, and he could just tell, oh God. But there was no doubting it. Normally, I'm like one of those people who are very stubborn. I don't like going to the hospital if I think I can get away with it. But it was that disfigured. I'm like, there's no way I can like kind of mask this as being not serious. So I rocked up and they were took an X-ray. They said there's no doubt about it. It's definitely not right. And it came out that much that they said I was very, very lucky that it didn't come and damage any of my nerves in my arm. Because had it damaged the nerves in my arm, I probably could have lost it from like the elbow the whole way down to the fingers. Could have lost the feeling in it completely. So it was quite a scary injury. Luckily, they put me under an anesthetic and they tried to get my arm back in whilst in the A&E. They were just about to send me to have an operation, surgery to get it back in place, but luckily they managed to get it in the last attempt. So I was really quite lucky. And with the physio and stuff, the arm ended up healing a lot better than expectations thought because they said that I might not even be able to straighten it, but luckily I am able to straighten it and stuff. Actually, I'm even able to hyperextend it. So I got off quite lucky with that injury.
Oh, thank God to see as well, and you've healed up very well. Going back to wrestling training after this kind of injury, do you tackle training in a different way now?
I try to work smarter.
That's a good way to
I've had like other things, like I had a back injury that wasn't as serious, but it was nagging me for a long time. So I just try to work a bit smarter, just to kind of get the longevity of it.
Of course, as well. And, you've done great things now, even in Northern Ireland. I know you went to England as well recently, your first time wrestling down there. What was that like?
Oh, that was fantastic. We were doing like a wee carny show and it was brilliant. The kids were all really into it. Everybody at the show was lovely. It was for a promotion called Britannia Wrestling. So I had a friend who he takes their training and stuff. And he was kind of saying, "Oh, if you're about, we're doing this show. Do you want to come along?" And then I went along, and everybody was so nice. I'm definitely going to look at coming back over and doing a show with them again.
Oh, absolutely. And, I wanted to know as well, wrestling a crowd in Northern Ireland and wrestling a crowd in England, are they quite similar? Do they react differently to different things?
I would say they're similar, very similar, especially with kids. Kids just want you to be over the top, and they just, they want all the character there, and that's what they'll engage with. Like I even find myself, there was a lot of kids wearing Manchester United tops, and even though I would be a Manchester United fan myself, I was telling them City was better.
Oh, cheeky. Can you have that now? Woof. God
I know
damn.
I couldn't believe those words actually came out of my mouth. The things you do for wrestling.
My God, ruthless. Absolutely. Oh my God, Oof, that's going to be a crime soon enough these days. Be careful there. But I must say, you've done Northern Ireland, you've done England. When's Wales and Scotland on your eye?
I've actually done Wales a few times now.
Oh, nice. Oh, that's
I'm
great.
actually going to be over in 2 weeks again. I've done about 3 shows for Exposure Wrestling in Newport. Did 2 in Newport, for them, 1 in Cabran, and I'm back over to do Newport.
Oh,
So
good.
I'm doing a fatal 4-way match against Nadia Sapphire, Cheyenne, and Laura Di Matteo for their women's championship. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Oh, well, absolutely. And you can have a belt over your shoulder will be an absolute plus. But I mean, my neck of the woods, Scotland, when's that happening? I got to ask.
I don't know. I'm definitely looking to hopefully reach out the promotions in Scotland. I'm hoping that, maybe I can get into Scotland at some point in the next year, 2 years, because Scotland's definitely on my list. I've actually been over and trained in Glasgow before.
Oh,
and
what was
I
that?
really enjoyed it.
What was that with Iron Girders, or was that with Glasgow Pro Wrestling Asylum?
Fierce Females.
Oh, nice. Not bad
Yeah, it
indeed.
was back in the middle of the pandemic. But I got to train with Aisha Raymond, and she was fantastic to train with. I'd worked with her before back in Belfast, but I hadn't trained with her, and I definitely felt like I got a lot out of the session I did with her.
Oh, it's great to see as well. And so much great things are happening in Scotland, especially there's a very historic show coming up with Iron Girders, which is a training school called Iron Grinders, put on by LGBT wrestler Shay Monet. Such a historic show coming to Scotland. I mean, I want to know from yourself, Skye, what does it mean to have like an historic show coming out of Scotland?
Yeah, it's very special to see those kind of shows happening. Like, it's definitely needed to kind of show the diversity in that of wrestling.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, it's great to see. And obviously, I've had many guests on, Shay Monet, Visage, Kid Bandit from the States, and they've talked about how much this inclusion is so important to them to see, great shows like Effie's Big Gay Brunch coming along to the UK as well and over in the States. From yourself, Skye, what does it mean to see the representation just be worldwide at this point?
It's very good, because obviously there was a time where, there was obviously probably LGBT people in wrestling, but they weren't as out there, because, as we know, Pat Patterson, who is a fantastic wrestler, who was very prominent on the scene for a very long time, he was a gay wrestler, but he didn't publicly come out until a lot later in life. So it's really nice that it's not really having a factor on people's careers. If anything, it's kind of adding to the diversity of wrestling, creating something really cool in wrestling. And wrestling's ahead of a curve, especially when it comes to a lot of other sports that are still kind of stepping in there. Like, I'm a huge football fan, and I would say the women's football's kind of got there, the men's not so much. But it is great to see that wrestling is ahead of the curve. So hopefully other sports start following us.
Hey, follow the chain, and great things are going to come. You got greats like Giselle Shaw and Impact, Nyla Rose as well, Diamante, Kiera Hogan, all in AEW, killing it. Obviously, I want to mention, FSK Big Gay Brunch coming over for the UK again this year, I believe, with the TNT GCW crossover. If Effie came to you and said, "Hey, I want you on the show," and you get to pick an opponent, who would you like to face for Effie and why?
Oh, that's a hard one, because there is so many. I have been watching Shay for a long time, so I would probably have to say Shay.
Oh, Shay versus Skye James, guest versus guest. Oh, I'm loving to see it already. But obviously, the UK wrestling scene is going to have such a boom with AEW All In coming in 11 days now, pretty much, and it's such a historic thing to see. But I like to think before that, another historic UK wrestling show, WWE Clash at the Castle, such a banger event. And I know you attended the event, and I got to ask, which match was better? Sheamus versus Gunther or Roman versus Drew?
Sheamus versus Gunther.
Oh,
I actually honestly thought that one was match of the night. Even afterwards, I had a text from a few of my mates who were just like, "I am so jealous you just got to see that match live." But it was mad. I was up in the cheaper seats up at the top, and you could hear every single chop that those guys did on each other. So I don't want to imagine how sore each of them were.
Oh, it's going to be absolute true pain. I'm no for that. I mean, just riles the pain of seeing Drew lose. Bad time for the Scottish as always.
I know. I was really rooting for Drew. I genuinely think had they actually put the title on Drew, it would have made the event even more, like we would be looking back on it as even more of a historic, time, because I genuinely think that Drew deserved it. He definitely carried the company throughout the COVID era. And he got to win the championship, but he didn't get to do it in front of the crowd. And it would have been a nice reward to see him actually getting to do it in front of his home UK crowd.
Absolutely. I mean, hey, here's hoping WrestleMania in UK we get Drew winning a title or something like that. I'll take that any day of the week. But obviously, you had Money in the Bank. Cena kind of teased WrestleMania. For yourself, Skye, what stadium and where would you like to see WrestleMania be hosted in the UK?
Most people are going to say Wembley. I'm not going to say Wembley. I'm going to say the Principality because, I'm half Welsh, so I might be a bit biased, but to me, I thought the atmosphere Clash at the Castle was great. London's a busy city anyway. There's so much always going on in London, where I think if you have it in a place like Cardiff, that kind of gets overlooked sometimes, but has this really great stadium, and you have other stuff close together where you can have the WrestleCon and stuff like that. I feel like it could, like the way the city came alive for Clash at the Castle, I would love to see that again for a WrestleMania. I just genuinely think it would be great for Wales. It would be great for the city of Cardiff, and it would be great to see somewhere else in the UK get a rub of a big event like that isn't London.
Absolutely. And, I was there for Clash, but I was over in the States for, AEW Revolution and WrestleMania 39. And while those crowds were exceptional and fantastic, there's just something about the atmosphere and community of a UK crowd. It's unlike anything. Why do you think that is, Skye? Are we just a very passionate bunch, or do you think it's because we've been starved of great wrestling for a while from these big companies that has built this atmosphere and culture?
I think it's basically because, we are starved of it. We don't get it an awful lot. Like, I've noticed the theme with WWE when they go to somewhere else like the UK, or even that show pretty recently in Puerto Rico. You could see how the crowd in Puerto Rico were absolutely ecstatic for the show. They were making noise the whole time, and I felt like it was very similar to the UK crowds. And I think it's just because we are very, very passionate about the wrestling, but we never ever get these big shows. We get the odd live event, but it's just not the same with a live event. They are fun, but with a live event, you're not going to see anything extreme. You're not going to see any storylines play out. You're just going to see, a basic show with your favorite wrestlers.
Of course, as well. I mean, hey, WrestleMania in the UK, I love WWE's little mini titles. I have the Clash one, which was in a castle. I know Money in the Bank.
I've got that one too. I seen it and was like, no, I need that. I have to get that.
Exactly. I was like, how much? That's fine by me. And then I was like, I have to carry this box from Cardiff to London to Scotland. That was a hell of a day. That's a day that I'm no looking back to remember, holding a box like an absolute twat across like 3 places. Like, yeah, cool. That's how I look. But obviously WrestleMania, they kind of like to do the tradition. If you had to see them do a mini title for a UK WrestleMania, what would you like the design to be? And most importantly, what would you want the box, the case which this title holds in, to look like?
Oh, I would love to see them maybe incorporate the UK flags, where they had the Northern Ireland flag, the Scottish flag, the Welsh flag, and the England flag. Maybe even throw in an Irish flag, because even though it's not part of the UK, we are going to get a lot of fans from the Republic of Ireland going over to WrestleMania had it happen. As for a box, even one shaped like a crown, because, in the UK, we are very well renowned for our monarchy, so that the with the historics, because even outside of England, Scotland has a history of having their Scottish kings. You've had different monarchies in Wales and stuff. So I feel like it would be a nice way to embody it all. Another one is you could always just stick it in what looks like a pack of beer, because that could also represent the UK quite well.
Oh, beautiful. Best thing ever. And it will probably cost like 600 quid. So thanks.
Or if we just want the embodied Scotland and Northern Ireland, put it in a bottle of Bucky.
Oh my God. Merch seller, best of the year. I'm seeing it right now. Merch seller is flying off. Sorry, Roman. Sorry, LA Knight. Sorry, Cody Rhodes. You've been beaten. Best seller of the year. Sorry, pals. Take a wee back seat. I'm afraid you've been beaten. But also, I did mention about AEW All In, and they've announced a couple more matches yesterday as of Dynamite. We've got Will Ospreay versus Jericho, and you've got, the Best Friends, Orange Cassidy, Eddie Kingston, and the Lucha Bros against the Blackpool Combat Club. But they've got 3 unknown opponents. I want to know from yourself, Skye, if you had to pick 3 UK-based wrestlers to join Jon Moxley, Yuta, and Claudio against these guys, who would you want to see and why?
Well, we've already mentioned LJ Cleary, so he's very prominent on the UK scene. So I'll go with LJ Cleary. Definitely Grado, because Grado is always going to be a fan favorite. Let's face it. Yeah, and gosh, trying to think of a third one. So much choice.
I was thinking maybe a big Demo.
Aye, Demo, definitely Demo, 100%.
Demo in Wembley, just everyone chanting Demo would be. Oh, I'm getting excited already. Goosebumps are filling my suit already. I'm gonna.
Yeah, no, that would be sick, because anytime you see him do a match, it's magic.
Absolutely, but let's ask yourself, Skye. Say if Tony Khan came to you and said, "Hey, I want you to face anyone on the AEW roster at Wembley," and you got to pick, who would you want to face and why at Wembley?
Saraya.
Really? Ooh, I mean, she is coming back, and it's great to see. She's such a historic British wrestler as well, coming back to the UK and wrestling in such a great venue. What do you think, going down in the history books, Saraya will mean to UK wrestling, especially women's wrestling?
Well, I do feel like she's opened up a lot of doors. Like, she kind of broke into WWE at such a young age, especially being a British wrestler, because let's face it, the Americans definitely have the advantage with them being so close to, WWE, being in the same country and all. Mm-hmm. Like, she kind of popularized the style that wasn't, the stereotypical diva at the time. Like, I really loved her whole anti-diva stick. Mm-hmm. I remember when I was younger, watching the documentary about her and her family on Channel 4, and I really find it inspiring. And to be honest, watching her in NXT, the matches she had with Emma, and even on the main roster, her whole feud with AJ Lee, I would say she is definitely one of the biggest inspirations for me. And I'm sure that there's a lot of people that would say the same thing about her. Wow. And she's resilient. Like, I know she's probably made a few mistakes, like in our personal life, but she seems to have come out the other end of that. But you could understand her having those mistakes. She was so young, and she was pushed into the spotlight in WWE at such a young age. And then having that injury where she thought her career was going to be over, and to come back from that injury, she's just an inspiration to me.
Of course, absolutely. And then she came back at AEW Grand Slam, Arthur Ashe Stadium, a hell of a way to come back. When you first heard she was back, did you kind of not believe it and be like, no way, this can't be real, right?
I always secretly hoped that she would come back. Like, what really solidified to me that she could potentially come back was when Edge came back, because nobody thought Edge was going to come back. And Edge is a lot more older. She was a lot more further in the his career than her, and she was being so young when she had that career-ending injury. I always had a little bit of hope that she would be able to find a way to come back to wrestling.
Of course, and Edge, such a kind of like the pioneer of you may have had a traumatic injury, but you can come back and perform some at the same level or more. I want to know from yourself, Skye, is there a wrestler who's had that kind of injury and is now in retirement that you would love to see come back?
I would have said Bret Hart, but I think that's long past, like. But I don't think he ever forgave Goldberg for that kick.
Oh, no. Bret versus Goldberg is like Vince Russo versus Jim Cornette. Rivalry is the longest time, never going to get
Maybe AJ Lee, because AJ Lee kind of had issues with her neck also, and was one of the reasons that she walked away. And I just feel like she did a lot, but there was a lot more you would have liked to have seen her do as well.
Of course, AJ's a great talent in herself, doing such great things now. Her own, movie she's writing, her best-selling book, appearing on Heel season 2 of her husband CM Punk. I want to know from yourself, Skye, AJ versus Saraya, would that be the dream match for you if she came back in AEW?
Yes, that I feel like that would be a fantastic match to see, definitely. Though I would say my dream one to see is I would definitely like to see Saraya versus Mercedes.
Oh, two eras of women wrestling clashing. I mean,
Yeah, because like basically like she came in the WWE as Sasha straight after her, and like yeah, like I don't feel like we ever got a really good singles match with them, like a really high profile single story, and I feel like they're both fantastic storytellers, that it would be a very, very interesting match to see.
well, hey, that Forbidden Door hinges are blown off thanks to Tony Khan, so who knows what happens in the world of professional wrestling. But, Skye, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here on the Solo Sessions. But one final question I want to propose to you before you go is this. There's been many great women titles in history, from the past and the present now. If you got to envision yourself holding one women's title above your head as a champion, which title would it want to be and why?
The NXT UK Women's Championship.
Oh, a title
The reason is a very, very basic reason. I genuinely think it was the most beautiful title that they ever had.
It truly was, and it's such a shame it's gone. Who knows what the NXT Europe one will be like? Hopefully, I'll be cheeky. I hope it's a spinner just to make people angry. I think that'd be just hilarious.
I don't know the hate for the spinners. I don't know. Maybe it's because I grew up in the Cena era and my aunt's John Cena and his spinner belt, but I always did love the spinner belt.
Hey, people may hate on it, but when you go to like these shows and everything, I bet you out of every 5 wrestling fans, one of them has a spinner. It sells.
100%.
I'm sorry. You can
100%.
hate the facts, but face the facts, guys. The spinner is over. It's loved, and it's a historic. Better than the Winged Eagle. I'll say it. I'll take the brunt again. I've been, calm down, guys. It's just an opinion. People can have those, relax. But Skye, thank you very much for coming here on the Soul Sessions. And, I'll have your Instagram link of this video below. So viewers, click that, follow the journey of Skye and see what she's getting up to. But Skye, have you got any other dates lined up for the rest of the year that people can come see you if they wish?
Yeah, so I have Newport on the 27th, and then I'll hopefully be doing one of the Titanic shows on the first weekend of September. So it'll either be Coleraine or Belfast, but we'll see closer to the time.
Well, all good things around. And viewers, just remember to click her Instagram and you can follow her journey. But thank you everyone for tuning in here for another episode of the Soul Sessions. Like, subscribe, follow the page on Instagram, all those jolly things. And thank you everyone and have a lovely, lovely day.